Welcome back to Alluain. I'm the world building shrimp. Today I'm talking about the creation and purpose of Alluain. I'm finding it quite hard to draw anything for this video, so please bear with me for whatever I manage to make. My world building has multiple named dimensions. It originally had 4, but I smushed 3 of them together. We have ours, which I call Kanon, whose name makes me very happy, and Aetherin. We're working on creating and naming a 3rd, but that'll have to wait. Aetherin as a dimension was almost completely isolated in the beginning, only leeching things into itself, but not letting things out, until Avayk exploded. Aetherin is a dimension filled with chaos, with anything, anywhere, all at once. But it had a keeper, of sorts, the Whispers, an incorporeal, far-reaching divinity of order, overseeing a dimension of chaos. While I have her name in plural form, the Whispers is only one entity, though I see her as being able to affect multiple places at once. Her name is a shortened form of She Who Whispers. She's also known as the Seamstress of Aetherin, since reality in my world building is a lot like fabric all bunched together. Anyway, she coaxed pockets of order to develop within Aetherin. Within those realms grew forms of life. One such pocket nurtured Avayk. While other pockets became the birthplace of many, this was the cradle of one. Avayk was a distorted mirror of Aetherin, the possibility of containing all, and yet they remained orderly. They were cohesive, organized, and cyclical. They grew to fill the space within their pocket, brushing up against its walls in every direction. Avayk thrived by resonating with the very makeup of Aetherin, which is ether. Through the edges of their pocket, they filtered it into themselves, bringing the chaotic essence in, then dividing it into each of the aspects that comprised it, thus creating order. Each aspect of chaos is an essence, an intrinsic, unique quality of something that leached into the dimension of Aetherin. When each part of Avayk resonated with their specific essence, it brought in more ether from the outside, a cycle of growth, of satisfaction. Avayk would listen to the Whispers as she helped shape them, keep them orderly. But they outgrew their stability. The aspects within themselves began to starve of contact with Aetherin and its essences, their edges not being able to meet the demand of their internals. Fractures began and steadily spread. The Whispers did what she could to help the delay, but the inevitable arrived. It wasn't a surprise, nor a tragedy, when Avayk broke into pieces. It had had its time, and its time was up. Except, Avayk did not implode, destroy itself, and then quiet into nothingness. Avayk's brokenness became a plague to all the realms of Aetherin. The newfound pieces, now called Avayki, were sharp, furious things. They cut through their cradle and went searching for their sense of belonging, their need to be whole. They could not find it. Without Avayk, they did not have the strength to filter Aetherin's chaos to find their own essence. They searched, and the longer they went alone, the more destructive they became. When Avayk shattered, it was into an untold number of pieces. But some were larger than others, and the larger the piece, the more stable. They could still filter ether and remain satisfied. The largest piece of them all was filled with sorrow and empathy for her shattered other pieces. She tried to bring them back, but they refused to be joined again. The Whispers worked alongside these larger pieces, known as the Shards of Avayk, so that they could cure the plague upon the realms. But this was not out of affection. The Whispers did not care that the pieces were hurting, only that they were destroying her order. Once one of her children became an unsolvable problem, they were only to be done away with. But the Avayki could not be destroyed. Their rage cut through not only the fabric of Aetherin, but into Kanon. Thus, the folds, holes in the fabric that connect two places together, were made, and a solution arrived. The destruction of another dimension seemed a handy alternative for the Whispers, but it was not so easy to get the Avayki out. Instead of just shooing them easily away to destroy somewhere else, they needed to be convinced, and they needed to stay there. They chose a planet in Kanon for their containment. The shards and the whispers worked together to turn this planet into a place the Avayki could be satisfied, a place they'd stay for the rest of reality. The entire purpose of the world of Alluain is just to keep the Avayki there. It was not an easy process, and it did not work as intended for many attempts. But when it comes to the timeline of deities, the shards of Avayk and the whispers were not deterred. They needed to create a place that would sustain not only the elemental essences, but all of the living ones as well. Life, death, change, emotions, growth, kindness, and cruelty. These essences could not be found on an empty planet. They used the forms of life from both Aetherin and Kanon, willing and unwilling. A sacrifice the Whispers did not hesitate to make in order to safeguard her dimension. Still, it ultimately protected Kanon and all of reality as well. After much trial and error, they reached a stable state of the world, and the cycle was forged. Once a majority of the Avayki were lured and settled into their new homes, the Whispers abandoned the project, returning to oversee her own dimension, now free of the broken. So that is the story behind the creation of my planet of Alluain, and the origin of the cycle. The cycle exists to keep the Avayki satisfied, and to stop them from destroying reality. We'll go into the specifics of the cycle in another video. Drink the water, do the things you enjoy. Talk to you later.